'Cause baby, now we got bad blood. You know it used to be mad love. So take a look what you've done. 'Cause baby, now we got bad blood.
Hi, welcome to Our Color on the Comic. I'm Chanel.
And I'm Anthony.
And we're reviewing Batman Bad Blood.
Today we're going to be discussing the actors that have been portrayed in this movie and the different roles they've been in, as a little bit of background on each of the characters as well.
The cool thing about Batman Bad Blood is all this cool stuff that it comes with. You get it in Blu-ray, you get this really cool comic book. It's really small, but it's really long and detailed, which is really cool. It also comes with an action figure that's like the size of your finger, but still cool.
It's good collectible.
So I'm going to leave it to Anthony so he can give you the synopsis of the movie and give you a little bit of background.
The Gotham City night sky erupts in flames as Batman battles Firefly, Tusk, and Killer Moth. But when the smoke clears, Batman is missing, and the mysterious Batwoman is the only witness to the events. Now with the bat signal going unanswered in a city on edge, Nightwing and Robin form an uneasy alliance with Batwoman and newcomer Batwing. Together they'll fight to uncover a sinister plot that involves mind control and a monstrous new villain known only as the Heretic. It's an all-new epic chapter from the DC Universe that proves that when it comes to Batman, justice truly does run in the family.
So one of the main things I really liked about this movie is the introduction of a whole bunch of new characters. The first one that I thought they did a really good job on was Kathy Kane.
I thought it was interesting because in the 1950s, when they did have Batwoman, she was Batman's love interest. And I like how they didn't do that this time around. In fact, she's a lesbian, which I think shows how far we've come from 1950.
I do think it's interesting that this is the second time that Batwoman's been portrayed on camera. The first time was during 2003 when they had Mystery of the Batwoman, which had no real connection to anything. There was actually two people playing Batwoman versus one. I think the Kathy Kane character is really cool.
I feel like you definitely got a lot of background information on her character, but they didn't do a very good job with other characters' background, like Batwing. We didn't get hardly any background story from him. He's just was in the war. We don't really know what he did, but he's a hero, and all of a sudden, he knows how to use all this technology.
Yeah, the one thing I felt kind of irritating about it is that he just automatically knew where to go to find this super suit, and there was no mention of it in the movie beforehand.
And he just puts it on and just, oh yeah, I know how to use all these gadgets. I don't need practice or training or nothing. And at least they could have gave some sort of background from
when he was in the military.
Yeah, when he was in the military, and like maybe he had training that was similar, or he is just that super smart where he could figure it out.
Yeah.
This didn't give anything like that. He was just, he puts on a suit and he's a hero. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Which, I mean, it was okay. I mean, for that aspect of it, I wish they could have done more with it. The comic books, they have had a few of them. I guess the character came out in 2013. They haven't really explored a lot of him yet. He's still pretty mysterious, I'd say.
I was super excited that the Heretic was going to be in this movie. And he had the smallest role, which is very disappointing because when we heard about the review for the movie, we looked up, oh, who's the Heretic? And he's just seemed like this awesome character that hasn't been developed yet and could have had multiple opportunities and made this movie completely awesome. But they did not go that route, which is very disappointing. I was very sad about that.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed is that this movie was a combination of three different types of comic books. You had Battle for the Cowl, which is a pretty popular one about what Nightwing decides to do after Batman dies, and who's supposed to take up his mantle. Also, The Death of Robin, which is from Batman Incorporated. Those different types of story arcs all kind of were mashed into this one, which I didn't so much mind because I felt like it gave you a lot going on and there was always something happening.
We were super excited to see what kind of face the Heretic was going to have.
The baby face.
When they reveal him, like take off his mask, because in the comics he literally has a baby face.
And that sounded really creepy and awesome.
It sounded so funny.
But they didn't do that.
And they didn't do that, which I don't blame them, but I was super interested to see the revealing of his mask.
People would have been like, why is there a baby face? And I was like, well, yeah, because, I mean, they're, like, super grown really quick.
Yeah, it's
Damien's.
It's Damien's clone
Yeah.
that Ra's al Ghul made.
And he made like a whole bunch of them, and
Yeah.
then if it doesn't succeed, they just kill it. Now, one thing I thought was very interesting from the other movies is I feel like their take on Talia in this movie was pretty weird, considering that she was such a great character in Son of Batman.
I thought it was weird that she was all of a sudden all about technology and wiping out certain areas. Just when did she get super techie and into that?
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be like a ninja.
Which, yeah, it didn't make any sense if she's living by all these traditions that her father, Ra's al Ghul, like, did, and then all of a sudden...
Never seen Ra's al Ghul be like, technology.
We're gonna take over the world, because he could never do it. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I get it that they were using it to try to drive other factors in the movie, and they needed, like, a big bad villain, but it just kind of felt forced, and it didn't really make sense.
It was just weird.
Especially since, like, I feel like her character in the other movie was all about trying to protect Robin, and she loved Batman, and it wasn't at all like that.
And they don't really explain why she's this hardened woman. Who's the guy that was, like, super...
The Kung Fu guy?
Yeah, like, this really awesome guy who knows all these moves, and then he just gets killed by some rocks.
Yeah, we were really...
We were so excited to see him fight and have this huge, like, action scene, and then...
Yeah.
Died.
And then he just gets hit with, like, a big pile of, like, the ceiling, and then Nightwing's like, oops, sorry, he died. Which, I mean, it's just funny, because...
Oops, it was just, yeah, I didn't need to do nothing.
Yeah, I feel like they killed hell of people in this movie.
They killed a lot of people.
Which is sad.
It's funny because, like, I like it when they get super ruthless, but then...
There's, like, a line where they're like, oh, well, we'll never see Deathstroke again, because he's dead. And, oh, Firefly and Killer Moth are dead. Well, oopsie, too bad.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that they got through all of these Batman villains all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
It's kind of strange.
I get it that it looked cool and it worked well for the film, but then where do you kind of go from there? Now the main people you have left are what? Joker, Penguin, Two-Face, Riddler, and that's about it.
I don't know, I feel like they could have done that fight scene with, like, goons. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
still would have been cool.
Because
And then-
goons are expendable. You're talking about the big boss guys.
Yeah.
So some of the cool things we did is we did look up all the different voice actors for this. I'm going to turn this over to Chanel, and she'll go over all the different various voice actors that were involved in the project. Some newcomers, some people who have worked in the voice industry for a super long time.
This movie featured many voice talents who have been involved with comic book related projects as well as voice acting. Jason O'Mara, for example, has lended his voice to Batman for the last few releases, included Justice League War, Son of Batman, and Batman vs. Robin. Stuart Allen, the youngest of the group at 17 years old, has been acting since 2010 and has already voiced Damon Wayne, aka Robin, for 2 other DC releases. Sean Mayer is an interesting case as he has been involved in the comic book world for quite some time, with credits to the CW TV show Arrow, where he portrays Shrapnel. In this movie, however, he returns to the role of Nightwing for a second time. Yvonne Strahovski is new to the voice acting world and is mainly known for her TV show hit Chuck, but here she embodies Kathy Kane, aka Batwoman. Gaius Charles, best known for his work as Dr. Shane Ross on Grey's Anatomy, took on the role of Batwing, which is new to this DC universe as well as his career in voice acting. Morena Baccarin, by far, has the most current exposure towards the comic book industry, including her take on Talia al Ghul in this movie. She currently is starring in the smash hit Deadpool, and is also well known for her role in the Fox show Gotham as Dr. Leslie Tompkins. But earlier in her career, she's done a multitude of comic book roles, including the voice of Gideon on the CW show The Flash in 2015, as well as the voice of Black Canary on the Justice League cartoon in 2005, just to name a few. Travis Willingham is no stranger to voice acting since he's been doing it since 1989, starting with Dragon Ball Z. Some of his other popular roles include the voice of Knuckles in the show Sonic Boom, Thor in Marvel Avengers Assemble, and such video games as Final Fantasy, Halo Wars, and Street Fighter IV. this time around he lends his voice talents to the villain known as the Heretic. One of our other gripes about this movie was the fact that they had Robin in a monk facility, and he just like pulls out technology.
He's like, I'm just gonna play on my phone, see what's going on in Gotham.
Missing. But it's like, why would a monk place allow technology? I think that's a little far-fetched.
Yeah, I agree. Usually if you're in a monastery, they're going to be like, you know, forget the ways of the outside world and focus on your craft. And instead it's like, still do whatever you want to do and get all angry and throw your bag in the room. And like,
the short scenes that they did show with him there, he was like washing the floors and stuff. And for them to only show that he's washing the floor, and then he's like super calm and collective, and it did help his mood and his like the way that he handles things. I feel like they could have done a better job about expressing how the monastery helped him.
With a runtime of 74 minutes, I feel like they did pack up quite a lot into it. I liked it, but it's definitely not my favorite. I feel like this and Throne of Atlantis were probably the two weakest ones so far.
I just feel like they didn't give enough story to
Aquaman.
Like, I was so excited. I was like, oh, I've never read that comic. It'll be so in-depth. It's supposed to be all about him. They didn't really go over much of his, like, background.
Yeah, and I feel like that's probably an ailing problem with these movies, is obviously I know you can only fit so much and you're trying to build up a character in this new Justice League world with everything where they started from Justice League War and they're kind of going from there. But I do feel like they aren't, sometimes it's hit or miss. Like, I feel like the rest of the films have been great, though.
I feel like it would be cool if they could just, like, do a mini-series before the movie comes out. That way you hit every character and you still get background. Like, they did little mini ones for the last movie
Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, they had little itty-bitty clips that was about individual characters. I mean, it didn't give you a huge amount of information, but it was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's really fun to see how their character was going to develop, and I feel like since they're constricted and on a time limit for a movie, you could just go and do that, and then it would still keep the fans interested and more satisfied.
Something else that I was excited about, but Chanel not so much because she was just kind of like, what was the point, is the introduction of Batgirl.
It's hard to say that it was an introduction, because at the very end of the movie, they just show her flying away.
They're setting up future events for the Killing Joke, which I'm kind of worried about that, though.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm super excited for Batgirl. I think it'll be a really great movie. I'm sure they'll do a movie just about her and her life. I think that's awesome. I love her comics. Great. But they didn't introduce her. They just showed a clip, and then that was it.
Yeah, it's supposed to get you excited. Aren't you excited?
I wasn't excited because of that movie.
No, but it's at the same time, it's just like more stuff to like sink your teeth into, like all the exciting new stories they can do with Batgirl now involved.
I'm excited, but not by this little
This
2-second clip.
Well, whatever. I was excited for it. Another thing that me and Chanel really liked was the... I always really like the featurettes on here. We always seem to watch them in every single movie that comes out.
Yeah.
This one that had really cool stuff involving how they go about making the fight scenes. The director, Jay Oliva, he does... Just watching his process of coming up with stuff is pretty interesting.
Yeah, they have this huge interview about how he goes over every aspect and all of his research and what he does to prep for the scene. And it's really interesting just to hear him talk about it. But one of the things that he had mentioned is that once Matrix came out, it was okay to have elaborate fight scenes like that. And it really opened a lot of doors, and it was just interesting to think about.
Yeah, and it kind of became the norm, which is interesting because
Yeah.
a lot of people were like, oh, we don't need super crazy fight scenes. And now I feel like people get disappointed if they don't get those fight scenes.
And he said some of the paperwork they would give him, it would be like Matrix-like fight scene.
Yeah. And it's cool because he talked about a lot of the different movie influences he took into consideration when he like watches fight scenes. Like some people's interpretation of Batman were more like he was a brawler and he didn't really have any skill above and beyond just being able to beat the crap out of somebody. And then other influences were like he took some from Bruce Lee, and he took some from different other martial arts and different things like that.
Yeah, he said he would even like watch YouTube videos on just fight sequences or like how you take a gun from somebody so you can see all the motions and whatnot. And he even referenced Arkham Knight.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Which I thought was really cool that, you know, a movie director is going to look at a game. Like, that's how far games have come.
Especially that game, because it's very known for its, like, fight sequences and stuff like that. And they do a really good job of showing, like, how the free flow of it works for if you disarm somebody and go from this position. It's always in, like, slow motion, which is really cool.
So overall, I liked the movie. There was just certain scripts that didn't give me enough background on each character, which I would have appreciated. And I think my biggest disappointment was the smallest scene they had for Heretic. That was really disappointing. I was super excited for his character. He seemed like he'd be an awesome villain, and they just didn't utilize him at all.
They made him like a little baby. Sad. No, I mean, he wasn't a baby, but he acted like a baby. He's like, Mama, don't love.
Yeah.
Which is just sad. But we really appreciate you watching our first review. We'll also be reviewing Justice League Gods and Monsters. I know it's a little older now, but we really like that one, and we have a lot to say on that one too. So join us next time for Our Color Over Comic.
Take it back, look where I'm at. We was OG like DOC, remember that. My TOC was quite OD, ID my facts. Now POV of you and me, similar Iraq. I don't hate you, but I hate to critique, overrate you. These beats of a dark cart use bass lines to replace you. Take time and erase you. Love don't hear no more, no, I don't fear no more. But I get respect ain't quite sincere no more.